Starting that.
Bradford, ever since being traded from Philadelphia, he's looked amazing. He's not just managing the game, he is taking it
Sadly
to the next
enough,
level. He's
just
finding
5 years
receivers.
ago, that was me. Minimal to no broadcasting training or any skills. I'm Jansen Harris, CEO of the Just Good Network. Over the last 5 years, I've come up with practical ways to get better speaking with confidence on camera and doing voiceovers. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, if you're 70, if you dropped out of high school, if you have a GED, if you have 15 years experience in a different field. There are practical techniques that you could do day by day to get better, week by week. And I have a training program for that. If you're interested in getting better in transparent and practical ways, inbox me today or visit us at justgoodnetwork.org. Let's get better together. Hey, welcome y'all. Jansen Harris here with the final play on the Just Good Network. Joining me is Vincent Turner from the 100 Yards Football. How are you, sir?
How you doing this evening, Mr. Jackson? And
I'm
thank
doing
you
good,
for
man.
I'm sorry.
Hey, look, I'm doing good. We've been talking all week on the phone. We've had some positive discussions. We've had a lot of fun, and we finally get to do it on the show. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Want to say this too. We're presented by the Level 1 Game Room and Your Future Media. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about those Cowboys. First of all, and maybe it's too soon, but I don't care. Do you expect the Cowboys to win the NFC East? To me, even before the season, I looked at the schedule. I said the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East. No, hands down, guaranteed. I feel like they'll win 12 games. Some people think I'm out of my mind. Some people are like, yeah, that sounds about accurate. I think the Cowboys will win at least 12 games and win the NFC East. How do you feel about that, Mr. Turner?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. After 2 weeks, I think that's a little bit too high of a number, simply because I think that when you look at the NFC East, and we're just going on 2 weeks, I think the Washington football team is a very improved football team. I think the Giants are going to be a big player. And most of all, when you look at the Cowboys, there's no question about it. When their offensive line is healthy, they got probably one of the top 5 offenses in the game. But to play at a championship level, to win 12 games, man, you got to be strong on the defensive side of the ball. And the Cowboys are not strong. I still think they need a D lineman that can really work inside, because the Cowboys can't stop the run. And if you looked at the first 2 games this year, Tom Brady let the Cowboys secondary up, and then Justin Herbert had over 300 yards last week. Now, don't get me wrong. The Cowboys defense has improved a lot from last year. Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Falcons, had them playing better. But there's still holes in the defense for the Cowboys. And then when you look overall at the NFC East, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, you're looking at those 3 teams right there. And I can't think of the other team right now. You got the Giants, the Cowboys, and
Eagles. Yep. Washington. Yep, and Washington football team. For some odd reason, they didn't come up with a name. But Washington football team, Eagles, and Giants. I feel like the Giants, Washington football team are some of the weaker teams. I think Philly as well, too. I'm not too high on Philly. Some people are. I thought they were brought down to earth back with the 49ers. But speaking of the Eagles, Cowboys-Eagles, big rivalry game. This is a big one. Both teams are 1-1. Some think this is going to be a good test for the Cowboys. I thought they bounced back against the Chargers. I thought the defense held up. It isn't the best defense in the world, but like you said, Mr. Turner, they're getting it together a little bit with Dan Quinn, and it's only been 2 weeks. Who are you picking and why in that game?
When you look at this, is going to be Dallas' first home game.
Yes.
And you're looking at, I'm going to start with the Eagles. A lot of people are saying Jalen Hurts is going to be that guy, but I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. I still think he's an adequate passer. You look what the Eagles did in the first game. They played the Atlanta Falcons team. Let's face it, it's in transition. And the Eagles are still a strong defensive team, very strong in the defensive line. But however, Brandon Graham got hurt in last week's game.
Yes.
And The Eagles secondary is still what people say is still NFL quality. Steven Nelson has came over from the Steelers. Darius Slay is still one of the quality corners they got from Detroit a couple of years ago. They got Anthony Harris. But when you look at it, I think the Cowboys, if everything falls in place offensively, everybody's healthy on the offensive line. Lyle Collins didn't play last week. My man, Mr. Terrence Steele, played, had an out game against the Chargers. Then the Cowboys should win going away based on the fact, I don't think if you're looking at both defenses, I think the Cowboys can get more stops than the Eagles defense. And I think when Dallas is at a level when they're able to run the football and very balanced, I don't think it's anything better offensively in the National Football League with the Dallas Cowboys, based on the fact we've seen Dak Prescott has came on the scene, he's thrown on for 600 yards in the first 2 games. I still think Ezekiel Elliott is the best player on offense, and I still think if Dallas is going to really be a team we're going to talk about from an offensive standpoint, Ezekiel Elliott has to get it going. But on Monday night, you're coming back to Jerry's World, baby. All eyes is what? Monday Night Football. You looking at all the great Eagles and Cowboys matchups back in the day. I can go back all the way to 1980 when the Eagles broke my heart, broke the Cowboys' heart. You look at that Cowboys team that had Tony Dorsett, Danny White, Tony Hill. Then you looking at that Eagles team that had Wilbur Montgomery, Ron Jaworski, Harold Carmichael. And that team beat the Cowboys in the NFC East championship game and got to the Super Bowl and played the Raiders. I'm talking about the Eagles. The rivalry is there. It's a rivalry that goes back players, Jerome Brown, Reggie White, Troy Aikman. So coming up Monday night on ESPN, it's going to be very special. You know Jerry Jones is going to put on the show. But I expect the Cowboys to win a game by 10 points. I expect the offense to be clicking. I expect, based on the fact that the Eagles have some injuries in their defensive line, I think Dak Prescott is going to have a big evening. I think the Cowboys offense is going to roll. And I think when you're looking overall, the Eagles' strength is allegedly in their secondary. Darius Slay, Steven Nelson. So I'm going to ask you, Mr. Johnson, who do you put your money on when you take CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson going against Darius Slay and Steven Nelson? I think I'm taking Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson all day.
Yeah, look, Mr. Turner, I'm here with Mr. Turner, 100 Yards Football Podcast. Great breakdown. Look, Mr. Turner, we need to do the intro for the Monday Night Football. That was some great stuff, promoting it. That game's going to be huge. Back in Jerry World, like you said, I'm picking the Cowboys as well, too. I think at home, Dak Prescott in the next 4 years, you talk to a lot of Dallas fans. What are they expecting? They're expecting a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they'll win the Super Bowl this year. I'm not saying they'll get to the Super Bowl. But like you said, if the Cowboys bring that running game, they're going to be hard to beat. Yeah, the NFC, the competition's in the NFC West and with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the Cowboys, with the running game, some competent defense. So when I mean competent defense, I'm not talking about, okay, well, they're stopping quarterbacks from maybe even throwing over 300 yards. But they're bend but don't break. They get that key turnover, maybe the key sack. Are the Cowboys' defense going to be a top 5 that shut the quarterback down, make him look real sloppy? Probably not. But that bend but don't break mentality, rely on Dak Prescott, and they have to have a running game. You talked about Zeke. Zeke has to perform consistently how we're used to seeing him play. I don't think he's washed up. I don't want to use that term, even though running backs nowadays, they don't last long. But I'm sipping the Cowboys Kool-Aid right now. I think they're going to win the NFC East. It's going to be a statement victory. I actually see them winning 30. I'll give you a score, Mr. Turner. 31-17. It'll be close in the first half, but you're going to see a couple key touchdown passes, third or fourth quarter by Dak Prescott. And the next day, everybody in the media is going to go crazy, say, oh, man, Dak Prescott, top 5 quarterback, which – He's getting there. He's getting there, Mr. Turner. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens and the Cowboys win by 2 touchdowns. But yeah, definitely close to the first half. But how do you feel about Dak? Is that, do you think I'm tripping, thinking he could get to that level this year, progress into maybe a top 5 quarterback?
Well, I think you're dead on spot about Dak Prescott. Let's put it this way: Dak Prescott got his money because really are circumstances. Don't get me wrong. He came in and as a rookie started, kind of gave the Cowboys stability, was a big surprise. But let's be realistic here. In the National Football League, it's about winning games.
Yes,
but
sir.
the key part is about winning the big game. And to me, Dak Prescott has not done that. His first year as a rookie, they went 13-3. I thought he played very well in the playoff game against Green Bay. But go back, when Ezekiel Elliott got hurt in the second year, Dak Prescott was sitting there to carry the football team. And Dallas lost some games that season, ended up 9-7 out of the playoffs. Then the following year, they get to the playoffs and they play the Rams in the second round. Go back. The facts are there. Look how Dak Prescott played in that game. He didn't play well, man. Bottom line. Then the following year, when Dallas got out of the gates, they ended up, I believe, going 3-0. And they ended up at the end of the year playing Philadelphia and Carson Wentz. And he didn't make it happen then. They said he had injuries. But at the end of the day, I understand why he got paid. Because of where the quarterback position is going. And it was the right thing to do, I think, from the Cowboys organization. But he's got to win a Super Bowl. I totally agree with you, Mr. Harris, in the next 4 years. It's no hands about because now you're getting paid as being an elite. And right now, your resume doesn't show that. But me being a Cowboys fan, I understand. But look at what Dak has around him. When you're talking about talent, he's got some of the best offensive talent around him. So you're getting paid. You're one of the top 2 highest paid quarterbacks in the game. Look what my man from Texas Tech, guns up, Patrick Mahomes has done. Back-to-back Super Bowls in the Super Bowl ring. It's no question about it. I don't want to alienate the Cowboys nation. But if Dak Prescott, in my opinion, is going to be worth that money, then it's going to have to be a Super Bowl. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to have balance on both sides of the ball. I told you earlier, a few seconds ago, the Cowboys' defense is not there. They don't have a quality D lineman. DeMarcus Lawrence is hurt. Randy Gregory can't stay off the suspension list or COVID list. Their linebackers are pretty good, but let's face reality. Lyndon Van Erst took a step back. Jalen Smith took a step back. Michael Parsons is going to be a player. And most of all, the Cowboys have holes in the secondary. Trayvon Diggs has played pretty well so far coming out of the gates. He got 2 interceptions on the year. But you know, all you have to do is go back to the Super Bowl last year. Now, everybody want to talk about Tampa Bay, and I don't mean to bring them up on the video here tonight. But think about what really made Tampa Bay special. We could talk about the GOAT Tom Brady all day. But it was their defense. Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White, Villa, Carlton Davis, Antonio Winfield Jr. They played lights out down the stretch and then go back in the Super Bowl and see how they played against Patrick Mahomes. They held Kansas City to no touchdowns. But getting back to your question of Dak Prescott, do I think he's a top 10 quarterback? No question about it. But I see other quarterbacks better than him. And for me, you can throw for 400 yards all day. But the bottom line in this league is championships. It's like the great Michael Irvin, one of the most famous Cowboys ever. When you play this game and you go into training camp, and especially Cowboy Nation should understand this, because the days of Roger Staubach set the tone. Tony Dorsett set the tone. Emmitt Smith set the tone. Troy Aikman set the tone. Leon Letts set the tone. Robert Jones set the tone. Deion Sanders set the tone. It's nothing but championships. And right now, I'm not willing to put Dak Prescott in that club yet. And I don't care how many yards he so for. He has, I agree with you, Mr. Harris. In the next 4 years, he has to bring home a Super Bowl to Dallas.
It's Jansen Harris here with the Final Play on the Just Good Network. Me and Vincent Turner are talking Cowboys football. Look, we got to talk about the Thursday night game, and we're going to talk about Texas A&M and Arkansas. But I don't want to get off the Cowboys right now. I know we didn't plan to talk about them for 40 years, but let's go back to Diggs real quick. 2 interceptions on the season, and to me, a lot of corners can't cover nowadays. But if you could get interceptions and turnovers, damn it, put them on the field. And you're an asset, all right? I told you about the Cowboys defense. If they could just make plays in spurts, get interceptions, they bend but don't break. When you look at Diggs, what's his upside, like his full potential? Do you see him being an elite corner, just all right, couple lucky picks, or do you think, look, this guy is really becoming of his own in this league? How do you view him?
I think he's a corner coming out of Alabama, the system. They kind of play a pro system. They teach you man-to-man coverage. I like that he's improved a lot. I think Dan Quinn's system has helped him out more. But when you play in the secondary and you coming in as a corner, it's so many pieces have to go through that. I think number one is confidence. If you look at him from last year to this year, the confidence level is at a high level because last year's a rookie, he had a lot of penalties, man. And he gave up a lot of plays, but then he was able to come back last year and make plays. Seemed like more this year, he slowed the game down. He's more under control. And when you look at the first two games, I'm very pleased at him. He's more or less coming a ball hawk. So that means he can shut down one side of the field. But that's not going to get the question for me for Dallas. What about your other corner? You drafted Kevin Joseph, number 2 out of Kentucky. I thought he would surely be able to beat Anthony Brown now. Anthony Brown is not the answer. Jordan Lewis is up and down as a slot corner. Now, the safety position, they just brought Malik Hooker, who had played pretty good ball over in Indianapolis. He's getting into the fold. Now, DeMonte Casey has played real well. But when you look at it as a unit and you get to the playoffs, Mr. Harris, your game goes up and you got to play better as a unit. As I just said, when you look at Tampa Bay, what they did last year, they secondary played very well in the playoffs. Played very well against Aaron Rodgers. They gave up some plays in the NFC Championship game. But they was very impressive against Kansas City. And one thing that can really balance that Cowboys defense, they help the secondary out. Your D-line has got to be able to put pressure. And right now, DeMarcus Lawrence is out. I was really high on Randy Gregory when they took him out of Nebraska a couple of years ago. He's shown flashes, but man, let's face reality. He can't stay off the suspension list, and there's always something going on.
Always suspended.
And then when you're looking at their D-line right now, and it blows my mind that Dallas has not been able to draft a quality lineman. Being over the last 10 years, and I'm talking about like somebody like a Fletcher Cox, a Aaron Donald, or Mr. Sue. See, them guys changed the whole course of the game. When you get a pass rush, you can win championships, my brother. The Steel Curtain, L.C. Greenwood, Dwight White, Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, 4 Super Bowls. The Fearsome Foursome back in the day with the L.A. Rams, the Great Lake Deacon Jones, Marilyn Olsen, Lamar Lundy, Rosie Greer. They was winning NFC West championships back in the 60s. Then the Purple People Eaters, Gary Lawson, Carl Ella, Alan Page. They went to back-to-back Super Bowls. That's why you got to have a D-line. To me, more importantly, you can live off an average secondary. But when you got a D-line that can rush the passer, then you can go a long way in this league. And all you got to do is look at the game film and go back in the Super Bowl. Shaquille Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, and Mr. Sue, what did they do against Patrick Mahomes?
Dominated.
When Kansas City had 2 offensive linemen out. It's that simple.
Yep.
And that's why that's when you asked me early in our conversation about Dallas winning the division. Remember the team I mentioned? I mentioned the Washington football team. Because when you look at all the talent of a D-line, I really like their team because of their defensive line of Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Deron Payne. All first rounders. But to me, they're the best D-line right now in the National Football League. And they proved that last year with 47 sacks.
Okay.
And look what they did against the New York Giants this past Thursday night. 7 quarterback hits on Daniel Jones and 4 sacks. To me, that's where you got – if Dallas is going to make a step up, and really, I'm talking about not winning the division, but going far in the playoffs, they got to get play out of the D-line. And right now, when I look at their defensive line with DeMarcus Lawrence out and Randy Gregory, come on, man, Carlos Watkins, that's not going to happen. Doris Armstrong, that's not going to happen. Terrell Basserman, that's not going to happen. Them journeymen on the D-line.
Yeah.
So what this other quid read, Dallas got to be able to outscore everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, we'll see how Dan Quinn's influence, if he can get that pass rush from the journeyman guys. It looks like that's what they're going to have to work with. We'll see how that plays out. Again, we're presented by the Level 1 Game Room of Your Future Media. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football. You got the Texans, who they're all banged up, and it's confusing with their quarterback situation. This looks like a team, a lost team, right? We saw Taylor. He had some success. People were shocked about that, but he's hurt now. You got the Panthers and Sam Darnold. I know all about Sam Darnold. Not much was happening for him with the Jets. I thought it was a coaching nightmare there, and it's so far so good for him. They're 2-0. He's playing some competent football. He looks comfortable in that offense. Christian McCaffrey, he's healthy, at least for now. Knock on wood. He's playing well. Who do you have in this game, Mr. Turner?
Well, right now I'm gonna say this. When you look at after the first 2 weeks, and I know it's early, but you got to be impressed with the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
Anybody said it was going to be 2-0 after the first 2 weeks, I really didn't believe it, even though it's playing the Jets and coming back and playing the Saints, especially the Saints coming off a very impressive performance beating Green Bay. I think Carolina has got a very good coach in Matt Rule. I think Joe Brady is a very, very good offensive coordinator. And I think Sam Darnold, when it's all said and done, I think Carolina is going to probably be a team that's going to be very dangerous, maybe the second best team in the division, and maybe challenging Tampa Bay a lot, because I like Carolina's makeup. I think they got some good players on both sides of the ball. I think Robbie Anderson coming over from the Jets has really been a very big acquisition. Christian McCaffrey is healthy now. He's got over 300 yards total offense in 2 games. DJ Moore seemed like he's been a big-time player. And let's face reality, Sam Darnold has been the reason why. He looked like a guy that is living a second life. And I'm telling you, I was very surprised the Jets gave up on him and took another quarterback in Zach Wilson. That really really blew my mind. But you see what happens when you have a change of scenery. You go in a very good situation, a very good head coach, then you see what happens. But most of all, what I like about Carolina, I like their defense. 10 sacks already on the year, 3 turnovers. And I think right now, if you look at the first 2 weeks of the season, and you look what Carolina was really strong defensively, they usually have linebackers that have been strong over the years, and Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, Dan Morgan. But I'm going to tell you right now, the young man out of Sacramento, California, Grant High School, by way of the University of Washington, Shaq Thompson is making a name as being the best backer in the game. He's got 17 total tackles on the year? But look at his first game. Coming out against the Jets. 1 sack, 3 pass defense, 10 tackles. Then last week, he had 7 tackles. Then look at Carolina's defense, all the good young players. Derek Brown, local kid. Where you from up there in Gwinnett County? By way of Auburn has a sack on the year. Brian Barnes out of Florida State is a pretty good defensive end. And J.C. Horn proved to y'all why he should have won in the first round. He was the first corner taken. He's playing at a high level. And then Dante Jackson, who came out of LSU, who was the fastest player in the draft. This Carolina team has got some good players, man. And I'm going to have to say this. Slow down, Who Dat Nation. Y'all jumped the gun, did they not?
Yeah.
They made Jameis look like the Jameis of old. They held him to 111 yards passing and only 120 yards overall total offense. This Carolina team is very special. I'm taking them over the Houston Texans big on Thursday night, man.
Are we talking big over 2 touchdowns? We're talking...
Yes, sir. I think Carolina is going to win the game. I wouldn't be surprised score 24-10 or 31-10. I think this football team is very good. I think they got very good players. And I was very reluctant when they hired Mike Rule. But Matt Rule is a very good football coach. And look what he's done. He came in and drafted real well. He got Derek Brown in the draft. He got J.C. Horn in the draft. He made great acquisitions. He brought over Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold, who everybody was calling a bust leaving the Jets. But we're not saying that after 2 weeks. And like Sam Darnold is playing like some USC quarterbacks that came in this league and had some good success in Carson Palmer. You know what I'm saying? And Mark Sanchez.
Absolutely.
So this is a Carolina team. I'm very impressed with them after 2 weeks. And then let me throw in Jeremy Chin, one of the best safeties in the game right now. I just like everything about their football team. And think about another key acquisition Matt Rule made. He went over there and got an old player that played for him, Hassan Reddick, who wasn't happy in Arizona. But look what he's done in the first 2 games for Carolina. Hey, man, got over 10 tackles on the season, got a sack. This is a good Carolina Panthers football team. And it seems to me that Sam Darnold is going to be very consistent playing good football for them.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up. The team that could rush the passer, a team that's stopping the run, that's running the football. I just hope they don't use Christian McCaffrey too much. You have to use him in spurts. You can't just put the whole offense on him. But we'll see. We'll see. I think this game that they could blow the doors open on the Texans. Let me get 24-7. 24-7, and I see Sam Darnold continuing his dominance. We've got to mention Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. He's doing a pretty good job getting Sam Darnold used to this offense, and Matt Rule deserves a lot of credit as well. As you said, the Carolina Panthers right now, maybe they're one of those sneaky teams in the NFC that we need to pay attention to. In the NFC South, maybe they could challenge Tampa Bay. Right now, I doubt it. It's just 2 weeks, but they look like we could comfortably say after a couple of weeks that they're the second best team in the NFC South. Let's move on to college football. The SEC game of the week. You have Texas A&M. They're ranked 7th. They're playing the Arkansas Razorbacks, who's ranked 16th. To me, a little bit of a surprise. Texas A&M has won 9 in a row. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, it's no question about it's going to be the biggest game on the college football landscape on Saturday.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this one.
I'm going to say this first. I'm going to start with A&M. They're starting the quarterback, local kid from where you at in Gwinnett County, played at Lanier High School. I don't want to butcher the young man's name. I'm going to say Zach Kazunga. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's going to be starting his second game on the year. Texas A&M has got some players that a team that likes to pound the ball a lot. They got playmakers on the side. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Spittler is a very good football player. He's got 250 yards on the season. Their defense is one of the top 2 defenses in the country. In 3 games, they're only giving up 5.7 points a game, 17 points total. They got playmakers over there. Aaron Hansford is a very good linebacker. DeMarvin Leal is a good player. And they deserve their number 5 ranking. A lot of people are saying, hey, after they struggled against Colorado, went up there and won that football game in Colorado by a score of 10-7, but they lost their quarterback, Hayes King. Then they came back against New Mexico, had a very impressive outing, beat New Mexico 34-0. But what I liked about that game was they did everything they're supposed to do offensive, but on the defensive side, they had 11 tackles for losses in that football game, and they did not allow a first down in the second half. So this is a team I think is deserving of the number 5 ranking. Number 7, as you just said, Jimbo Fisher, he's cashed the check. When they hired him, he said he'd have Texas A&M, in 4 years in the top 10. Now, to the Arkansas Razorbacks. A lot of people don't know is that I attended the University of Arkansas a long time ago, but when you weren't even in this great country, as we say, the United States. I went there as a true freshman from 1978 to 1981. I walked on in 1980, got cut, tried to play on the football team. But at that time, Arkansas was going to bowl games, and they was a mainstay in the old Southwest Conference. And I remember all the battles against Texas A&M at that time. And when I was in school, Arkansas never lost to Texas A&M. And players that was part of that Texas A&M team, Johnny Hector, Ernest Jackson, Billy Cannon Jr., Ray Childers. But this should be a name to you. Gary Kubiak was the quarterback. That's right. Who was the former back of the John Elway and won the Super Bowl as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. But getting back to the game, looking at my Razorbacks, I got to say I'm very proud of the job Sam Pittman has done. I know he's a good football coach, and what he did over at Georgia as being one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. But in the 2 short years he's been at the University of Arkansas, I'm very proud because what he's done, he's followed what he loves to do best, and that's run the football. And if you look at Arkansas, it's nothing fancy about them. They're going to spread you out, but what they want to do, they're going to still pound the football. 2 weeks ago, they shocked the college football world when they beat number 15 Texas and beat them handily. Had 330 yards rushing that evening, had 5 players that on the season went over 100 yards. Then defensively, they beat them up on their side of the ball. Got one of the best strong safeties in the country in Jalen Catlin. But the guy that I think is going to play the big key on Saturday is KJ Jefferson. I think when you look at the first 3 weeks of the college football season, just go look at the stats. Just look at the stats and look at the game film. I would say he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks that's played at a high level this season.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Great that you brought up KJ Jefferson. Do you think he'll be able to throw on this number 1 defense down the field? They're the number 1 in scoring defense, and they have the number 1 pass defense right now in the country. Do you think he'll consistently be able to throw down the field? Arkansas, like you said, their running game has carried them. I'm not saying he can't make plays, but we haven't seen him move the ball down the field. Is it just they haven't really needed to install that, or do you think it's coming against A&M, or this is one of those games where they're going to pound the rock?
When I look at that, and that's good you asked that question, go back last week. I know Georgia Southern's not Texas A&M, but he did have 336 yards passing in that game and 3 touchdowns. But I think the key to that, and answer your question, are all predicates of Arkansas is able to run the football. That's their bread and butter. Like I said, they got 5 outside KJ Jefferson. They got 4 backs over 100 yards. If that happens, then that's going to open the game up. And remember this, I know Texas A&M, Damani Richardson and Jalen Johnson are really 2 great football players for A&M in the secondary. But the key to that is Arkansas running the ball, then you forcing man-to-man coverage. And one thing, I didn't even mention Treylon Burks, one of the best receivers in the country. All you got to do is check the NFL draft boards, and he's listed on some of the first-round draft boards, and he's a guy that can make plays, averaging over 17 yards a catch. But if that happens, I think KJ Jefferson is going to have a great game. And when I look at KJ Jefferson, you know the real reason I'm proud of him, Jansen, is this right here. He's from the state of Mississippi. He's from Sardis, Mississippi, which is 48 miles from my hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, the 901. And I always say this. I don't have to say anything else, but check the records. It's something in the water in the state of Mississippi. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Desi Dean, Alex Burks, Mate Ellis, Antonio McDyess, Brett Favre, Archie Manning, the entertainers, let me go acting, James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, and my parents, Chester and Inez Turner. So anybody that's coming out of the state of Mississippi that's got some athletic problems to themselves, they usually end up doing very well. But when I look at this football game, I'm just excited because now I can stand up as a true Arkansas alum and call the Hogs. And when I look at it, I'm putting Texas A&M in the same boat as Texas. A&M, I don't think it's been tested. And it's going to be a game that's going to be won at the line of scrimmage. And if you look across the country, you tell me which team has the best offensive line right now. Well, I'm putting my money on Marion Cunningham, Dalton Wagner, and Ty Clark. You know who they play for? They play for the Arkansas Razorbacks. And I'm putting them on that offensive line. It's going to be a good game, a close game, 2 teams slugging it out. The game of the day, and I'm going with my Hogs. I think Sam Pittman and them are going to keep it going. And after the game, I'm going to do something very simple like this. Whoa, pig, suey. Whoa, pig, suey. Whoa, pig, suey, Razorbacks. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Hey, man, look, the breakdown and the celebration, it just, I'm trying to figure out which one was better. I disagree. I think A&M is going to win. I think A&M is going to be the cleaner team. I think Jefferson's going to make a couple mistakes. But look, the celebration is grade A. It could go either way. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to win on the road because this is a test for A&M too. They still have some things to prove. It's a long season in the SEC, specifically the SEC West, which is stacked. So this is just test number one. I think it's close to being a 50-50 game. I think A&M's defensive line is going to dominate. I think they create a couple turnovers. I think you're going to see some looks, some stunts up front that maybe Arkansas hasn't seen, but they're going to have to stop the running game of Arkansas. And I just want to see, and this is what I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to see Jefferson on third down. I want to see when the pressure's on, when maybe they don't have a lead. They're down by 7 points. That's what I'm wanting to see. That's one of the key things I'm looking forward to seeing. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. SEC fans, they're going to come out and want to see this one. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. Do you have any final thoughts on the game? Something added that we should know or fans should look at before watching on Saturday at 3:30?
I'm going to say this. They play at a neutral site. It's going to be in Jerry's World where the Cowboys play. Both teams are going to have 50% of their fans in the house. So to me, it's going to be more or less like a national championship feel to it. But what I like about the Razorback, and you brought up some good points about A&M, no question about it. They got one of the top defenses in the country, maybe only giving up 5.7 points a game. But if you look at their schedule, they have not played a team that's physical, can run the football. And you're right, it's going to be one at the line of scrimmage. And I'm going to end you with this. I told you early in the conversation, Traylon Smith, Raheem Sanders, Dominique Johnson, A.J. Green, and of course with the quarterback K.J. Jefferson, all of them over 100 yards rushing on the year. Arkansas as a team has 847 yards rushing, 6.1 yards of carry. And I'm banking on that their offensive line is going to really carry the load on Saturday. And Sam Pittman, all you got to do is look at his body of work for it before he got to Arkansas and how he had that offensive line rocking over there in Athens, which is about an hour from where we live at. And think about who he who went in the pros at running back from over there. Todd Gurley, Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. Now he's brought that plane over to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And don't get me wrong, Texas A&M is a good football team, but they have an inexperienced quarterback. And this is a game where Texas A&M has not played nobody the caliber of Arkansas. Remember, Arkansas beat 15th-ranked Texas 2 weeks ago, and they put up 330 yards rushing.
Absolutely.
And then nobody, and the same thing that I heard some of the pundits, they were saying the same thing you were saying, Jackson. So you waving the fence. So stay with your pick and go on and pick the Aggies. You talking about 50-50. Stay off the fence and go with the Aggies. And I'm going with the Hogs. And to Razorback Nation across the country, it's time, as they say in Atlanta, rise up. It's time to rise up and start eating that hog because it's going to be serious in Jerry's World on Saturday. But Mr. Harris, stay off the fence and go and say that you have the Aggies.
All right, Saturday. I got the Aggies. Here we go. Got the Aggies in Jerry's World. I think the Aggies win by 7. I think the Aggies win by 7. I think the defense will dominate. I don't think the offense will be too outstanding, but good enough to win. I like the tight end they have. Weidermeyer, I believe is his last name. I don't want to butcher it, but he's their leading receiver. He's their leading receiver, he's a tight end, but that's their leading receiver. I think he makes a couple big plays. I think Smith makes a couple plays too early in the game. Nothing too crazy. I'm not huge on their passing game, but I think they do enough to win. I believe in Jimbo Fisher and the team, but we'll see. We'll see if we're eating the Hogs or is the Aggies. But I can tell you this: there's more rise up with the Hogs than there is the Falcons in Atlanta down here. So we could certainly say that. But that's the end of the show. The final play on the Just Good Network. Jansen Harris here with Vincent Turner. 100 Yards Football Podcast. Thank you for coming on. Guys, go follow him on all social media platforms. Hit him up. Hit me up. Let's talk sports. Throw categories out there. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing it more often. It's just the first run. Had a lot of fun for coming on.
Hey, I appreciate it. My first night here on a very good network, Just Good Network. I think you're doing wonderful things. I think you're the next big thing in this business. And I'm just proud and honored to be with you tonight. And what we're going to do, we're going to talk football. Had a lot of fun, had a lot of energy. In my final words, go Cowboys Nation. And, of course, the University of Arkansas, get ready to call the Hogs. Go to your nearest sports bar on Saturday. If you're from the state of Arkansas, if you're a Razorback fan, get ready to call the Hogs at 3:30.
Absolutely, absolutely.